Well, let's go to those 32 companies. Now, how did you acquire those, start those? Where did those come from?
Yeah. So after I sold the ad agency, this kind of timeline now, ad agency, I had some capital that I wanted to get in and invest in. A guy called me. He said, "Hey, I have an insurance company, which is the insurance company I just referenced." He said, "And I'm building some captives. My grandfather, that is an investor, he said, if you ever get the chance to get in some insurance captives, you should consider." It was like always one of those things that I was told I should consider. So I started going down this path. I flew out to Kansas City, met with the owner. He said, "Yeah," he said, "Actually, I'm watching your track record." He said, and he actually was a client of my advertising agency. And he said, "I'm watching your track record." He goes, "Man, you guys are just crushing it. I don't know how you're doing all of this." He said, "You seem to run a really sound business." He said, "Would you ever consider coming in as a minority owner and also being the operator of this business?" He said, "I'm in my late 60s. I'm ready to kind of walk off the scene." Um, he already had about 20 companies that he owned. And so I go in, I started for the first 30 days, I start moving stuff around, I start tweaking, I let go of a few people, hired some new people. I'm, kind of making a mess in the insurance company. But I did a couple of things that he really liked. And he came back to me and he said, "Hey, I'm going to make you an offer." He said, "I have these other 20 some companies." He said, "Would you consider making a small investment and I'll put all of these underneath of you?" And he said, "And I'll let you see if you can operate at scale versus just operating this one single asset." And thought about it a lot.
So
And
let me ask you about that. What does he mean operate at scale?
yeah, so meaning operated at scale, meaning can I actually do it? It's one thing to operate one single company and you have, your executives underneath of you. It's another thing to step up another level and go, okay, now I have all these executives.
It's managing people. Yeah.
It's managing people. And what he wanted to know is, could I take my same way of doing life and business and do it at the next level at scale? Because it was the one thing he hadn't accomplished. He had all these companies and it was a mess. I mean, like, it was a disaster. He had, people everywhere. Half of them weren't making money. I mean, it was just kind of a mess. And he wanted to know, could I do it? And so, and he was wealthy enough that it didn't matter to him if I struggled for a year, and he was losing so much money on most of those companies. He had this idea that he could buy data, and he didn't care what. So, for instance, like, he bought a company. It was a risk management company, but he just wanted the clients of that risk management company to potentially sell insurance for. So he bought the risk management company to go try to get the clients over to his insurance company. And that's kind of how he was doing business. But they were all desperate. They all were a mess. They all were poorly run. So we did all of that. And I began to reperform those companies one by one. And then that 20, I then started acquiring strategically because he had enough capital and I had enough capital that combined, we really could go after some additional companies that complemented kind of the sphere of what we were building. We were really in the real estate, mortgage, and insurance space is really the three verticals we were messing around in. We added a technology layer and a couple of tech companies in there later on. And then that's my springboard. That's how I really went from 22 assets in 2013 to the peak of when I owned all the assets was 2019. And we were at 86 assets that I owned. And most of those people did not know him as the operator. They knew me as the operator, me as the person who acquired them. And we owned and operated. It wasn't a private equity firm style. Like, we actually owned and operated 86 companies concurrently. We had about 6,000 employees. We had 5 or 6 high-rise buildings in Kansas City. It was quite the ride. And then we sold 76 of those assets in 2019.
I hope this video has inspired you. If you need help buying your first $1 million business, make sure to visit me at dealflowsystem.net. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe down below. Comment on it, share it, tell everyone about it. And thanks for watching.